What's good, YouTube? It's me, Squid, back in another video. Today I want to do a quick little sort of mini market watch on some of the cards that have been going up in price. I thought these were kind of cool that they're trickling up, trending up in price. A lot of people aren't really aware about these cards, so maybe it's something you guys should pick up while you're at Locos. And the first card actually is DUSTSHOOT. So this is a card that's playable in a lot of older formats, especially Edison, which is picking up in popularity, as well as Goat Control format. And they're trickling around $5 to $10. Depends on the edition, depends on the condition, and then depends on whether it's first ed or not. But it's kind of crazy because this card has not really had a reprinting, and like the PGD, I think is like one of the oldest ones, alongside like some of the more bling copies like the super rare from the champion pack or the dual terminal one. So this isn't like a drought on the marketplace. Not a lot of people has this card, and because Edison is rising in format, what they actually did for this year's North American WCQ, they announced that there's going to be a special Edison main event on Saturday that's going to be Swiss rounds. They haven't announced the prizes yet, but this is like a major event announcement for like a Time Wizard format. It's not just a side event like it previously was, but now it's like a major event. And previously there has been Konami representatives actually going on Twitter asking people through a poll if they would be interested in a full-on YCS or a major event that was completely a Time Wizard format, which in this case would be Edison. And this is a potential on the horizon. And now that this event has been announced, more people have been speculating that potentially Edison could be a serious contender for major events going forward. So now older cards that are playable, staples in the Edison format like Royal Oppression, DUSTSHOOT, all the synchros like Brionac, Gaia Knight, Colossal Fighter, so on and so forth, are slowly trending up in price. And DUSTSHOOT is like one of the major staples of that format that's played in basically every deck. So this card is actually going up in price slowly. If you guys are able to find some in your locals trade binders, just start trading for them. But the problem is this card will probably see a reprint sometime soon. I would imagine in the OTS pack or whatever, especially given that they're pushing the Edison format. But it's just something to keep note of, that a common can go up in price when the market is so dry for them. Next card I want to talk about is actually Heatwave. This is a card we kind of mentioned in the Sky Striker tips video that I have on my profile a little while back. But this is a card that you can actually play in Sky Strikers, because what you can do is go to main phase 1. It says at the start of your main phase 1, neither player can normal or special summon effect monsters until your next draw phase. So you'd play this, but then before it resolves, you're still able to summon. So you could chain the effect of Sky Striker linkage, which allows you to send Heatwave to the graveyard and then special summon a Shizuku or a Kagari, which puts the free monster on board. And then your opponent's under the restriction where they actually can't special summon monsters for the rest of their turn. So you kind of get that one up there. You get to search, you get a monster on board immediately, and your opponent effectively had to skip their turn in terms of monsters. So it's just like a neat little card. It hasn't really had a lot of printings. I believe Star Strike Blast, and then maybe it had like one other printing. So they are between $4 and $5, and they're starting to trend up now. It's kind of neat. I don't think this card is very good, to be honest with you, but it's still seeing some niche, I guess, hype and buyouts. So that's why it's sort of trickling up in price for those of you guys that are not aware. So cool little card there. Another card I want to talk about is actually PATISSCIEL COUVERTURE, and specifically the Starlight version of this. It was about $50 a couple of days ago, and then overnight, I think the day before yesterday, it shot up and doubled in price to 80, and now it's at 100 on TCG Player. And the reason is there's actually new support for the recent archetype that came out in Wild Survivors, and it's really, really cool because it ties these guys together. So essentially, like, PATISSCIEL COUVERTURE is somehow in that universe for the Nouvelles, which are like a cooking archetype. And in the new support, there's a spell card that allows you to activate it and special summon a monster, a Nouvelles monster from your main deck, as well as PATISSCIEL COUVERTURE specifically to your side of the field. So it's kind of a cool little interaction. It's a card that is decent. It gives you a lot of pluses. Who knows if the deck will be competitive, but the fact that it makes use specifically of this card, much like how Fallen of Alba's Secret Rare went up in price as soon as the deck became playable with Brand Fusion released, PATISSCIEL COUVERTURE seems to be a signature card in that deck, in that engine. So if you wanted to play Nouvelles in the future after the new support, you would have to play at least one copy of her so you can summon it off the spell card that's coming out in the OCG in the next pack. So that's why the Starlight one just like double in price. And in addition to that, it's also a good super volley target for pendulum monsters moving forward, because it does require 2 pendulum monsters. So that's the reason why the Starlight, being so cheap it was bottoming out at like $50, went up to 100. It's kind of neat that older cards, you never know, you guys just pick up like some of the random Starlights that you think are bad, because you never know when they will be playable or when they might see niche support and just like skyrocket in price. It's always a good thing to keep track of. And then the card is actually Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So this had 2 reprints, I believe, in the tins as a secret rare copy and as an ultra rare. And the thing is, we're getting a new card called Duality, which is coming out in the upcoming Brothers of Legend, which allows you to tribute a light or dark monster as a quick play spell card, and then special summon 1 light or dark monster with the same original type and level, but a different attribute from your hand or your extra deck. So essentially what you're going to be doing is tributing the Grand Guigno, which you can make easily off Cartesia. This is a level 8 light spellcaster monster. You tribute it with Duality, and that gives you a free Dragoon, because Dragoon is a spellcaster level 8 dark monster, which fits the criteria for Duality. So you're always going to have a free Red Eyes Dark Dragoon whenever you have access to Cartesia and Grand Guigno, which is easier said than done, especially in the branded deck. And this is especially nice because it allows you to push through your branded fusion. You get to use Cartesia first, play Duality, summon Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and then boom, you're protected from Ash Blossom with your Omni Negate. So it's kind of like really cool interaction there. It's also decent when you get de-shifted, so you can still make a Dark Dragoon and land that onto the table. And if you're playing multiple Dark Dragoons, it's actually quite nice because it actually is not a hard once per turn, so you could have multiple copies on the board and then just start negating multiple things. And this card is slowly trending up in price. I think it was around like $12 to $13, and now it's already at the $15 mark, approaching $20, because people are starting to realize and recognize that this card is something that you can cheat out easily in the branded deck with Duality. Another card that I talked a lot about in some of my previous videos, but actually shared Riot. This is a card that I had a theory of going first, siding it in against basically every deck, because every deck searches. It's essentially a max C that prevents your opponent from searching. You get to instantly replenish that loss right away, unlike Drone Lockbird, because you're chaining this to the effect of a card that adds from deck. And this card actually saw some play, I think, in the French Nationals, where Enzo Duval playing his Vanquished Soul deck, also with Fusion Destiny, which is kind of neat, actually sided this going first, and people are starting to realize, okay, this actually is a decent card. It's a blanket card effect, and it's really good against certain decks that add a lot, like Sky Striker, especially from deck and graveyard, because it covers both. And then on top of all of that, it's just a generically going first good card that you can side in, and it's a blanket effect. And we all know blanket effects like Abyss Dweller, Shared Ride, Shifter, Maxi, so on and so forth are very broken in this game when used to their full potential. So this card is starting to see a little bit of trickle up in price. It went from about $10, now it's like 15-ish, going a little bit 15, 16 on the original Laval first edition copies, which would be the highest rarity of the card at this moment. But you can still pick up cheaper ones, like there's a gold rare, there's also like the reprint secret rare that was reprinted in a tin. So if you guys don't have these, I mean, just like pick them up, because they are a good investment, at least for your own deck moving forward, because they might be decently good in the metagame now that every deck is essentially doing searching. And then the last card I want to talk about, Fantastical Dragon Phantasma. We also talked about this card a lot, but the secret rares are already going up in price. Like, they went up from like $15 and now they're like $25, $30. I think people are starting to see that this is still a good hand trap, and it saw a little bit of scarcity, scarce play in the OCG during certain matchups, like against Super Heavy Samurai, because they're summoning out links. And Fantastical Dragon Phantasma happens to be very good against decks that are hinging on their link monsters, like Vanquished Soul, Sky Striker, to name a few. Decks that always go into link monsters. This is always going to be live, and what it does is it puts a 2400 monster on the field that can negate targeting effects by discarding a card, and then on top of that you get to draw at least 2 cards and put back 1. So you're fixing your hand, you're putting back bricks, you're putting back multiple copies of Ash Blossoms or hand traps that aren't able to be used, and then you're also drawing into more board breakers or better hand traps that you can shape your hand, mold your hand. On your turn, you're going to get a free body on board as well. So it's a +1 on top of everything, in addition to drawing 2 cards, sort of like a mini pot of greed. And people are starting to recognize that the secret rares are very bling, and those ones are around $30, but you can still pick up the cheaper gold copies, super rare reprints for pretty cheap right now. So if you don't have a playset already, it might be a good idea to pick them up, because we never know. There could be a busted link deck coming out, and then it just ties everything together. When the tier 1 decks are predominantly link monsters, then this suddenly sees play. And resolving this, I think, is highly effective. It's also decent against Live Twin Sprite. Even if they lock you on Gigantic on their turn, on your turn, they're still going to be able to summon out one of their link monsters from the graveyard, one of the evil twins, using the effect. And Fantastic Dragon Phantasma actually says if your opponent special summons a link monster, it does not have to be specifically a link summon, okay? So even if they're special summoning a link monster from the graveyard, you're still going to be able to have it live on your turn. So even if you get Gigantic locked on their turn and you're not able to draw it, drop it down on the field. On your turn, when they special summon the Link monsters, you're able to drop down the Phantasmay, draw 2 cards, and then in addition to that, you're able to shape your hand, draw 2 more board breakers, and have Nominee negate or a monster that threatens to swing over their monsters like IP Masquerena. So yeah, that's about all I had to talk about in the video. If you guys like this, definitely subscribe, rate, and comment, and let me know other cards that are going up in price or cards that we should pick up, because it's kind of neat to speculate. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.